Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lattes on My Mind.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Felina. Hannah, what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about a crazy man named Grigory Rasputin.
So grab your lattes and join us for the journey. So Hannah,
What's up?
how's your week been?
It seemed like such a long week. I say this all the
was.
time, but did it not? I think because we had the break
Yeah.
for 4th of July.
Yeah.
And then I was like, a whole work week? What the heck is this?
Yeah. A whole work week. I was walking out with one of our coworkers and he goes, man, it feels like this week just flew by. And I was like, what? And he goes, did it not feel that way for you? I said, no,
Nope.
it just dragged on and on and on. And he goes, oh, well, hopefully the weekend drags on for you.
Right? Like,
like,
well,
yeah.
No, it won't.
I was like, probably not.
The weekend
It'll
goes
fly
like-
by.
Yeah, me waking up at 1 o'clock helps with the weekend flying by.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
stayed up until like 4:30 or something.
See, so that's part of it too. I wanted to stay up late last night,
Yeah.
but Marshall, okay, so we're doing keto.
She said, okay.
And I reluctantly agreed to do keto. And then I looked up what keto was, and Marshall was supposed to be doing keto. And I love you, babe, but you were not doing keto.
He wasn't doing
You were doing like a semi form of keto but you were really cheating.
He was like, I want meat.
Yeah. He basically was just eating meat. And I was like, you need to add fat into this.
Yeah.
Because that's keto. But anyways, so we're doing keto. But last night, we were going to have tacos. We had the chicken marinating and we were going to do the tacos. And then I was like, man, I want chips and salsa, but I don't want the cheese chips. Because that's too much effort. You
make them. Yeah.
It's going to be too much effort to make them. I'm hungry now. I just want the chips now. And then he was like, El Toro. Well, he said Hacienda first, but he was like, El Toro. And I was like, and so we went to El Toro and we got our server that we always get.
Oh no. And then
he was like, every time I go there, I'm like, I'm not going to get margaritas. I don't need margaritas. They're not keto anyways. We're already cheating. And then we walked in, he goes, hey guys, where you been? And we were like, oh, busy. And then, just catching up. And then he goes, margaritas, tequila shot. And I was like, I'll do the peach ones. And he was like, okay. We cheated. We got dessert.
Felina, you went all out. I have nothing to say because I literally always break my diets like a weekend.
Listen, let me just say, it was sapapilla.
Oh, sapapilla.
Have you ever had those?
I mean, Wes has made them for me.
I have never had them.
You haven't?
I have never heard of them.
You haven't had a
I
sapapilla?
texted my mother, hi mom. I texted her and I said, have you ever had sapapilla?
Like the tortilla with the cinnamon and sugar and like folded up with like honey and like.
Well, it didn't have apparently every Mexican restaurant has like their own take of sapapilla.
Right. Yeah.
But it didn't have the cinnamon sugar on it, but it did have like this like cinnamon sugar glaze.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Drizzled.
Yeah.
Over top.
Okay, but they were like tortillas, right?
They were like tortilla chips. They were like they came out in like
chips.
6 chips, and then they had like the thing. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
I texted her, mom, and I said, "Have you ever had sapapillas?" And she said, "Yes, and they're delicious." I said, "Why were you gatekeeping them from me? Why have we never had these?"
I think the whole world was gatekeeping them from you, Felina.
Literally.
Wes makes them for me. It's funny. He'll like take the tortilla. Like Wes doesn't cook, but it's the butter and cinnamon sugar, and then you fold it up. You like fry it, and then he folds it, and he puts powdered sugar and honey on it. Yeah, they're good.
They came with ice cream.
Oh, that's a whole new level. I have not had one with ice cream.
Yeah, they came with ice cream on top. And
you've had fried ice cream, right?
Yes, that's what I normally.
Gosh, it's so
normally we never get.
I never get dessert.
We never get restaurant dessert. We always go and get ice cream at McDonald's.
Right.
Or Dairy Queen.
That's what
if
you
we're
do.
Feeling frisky.
You get the food, then you go somewhere else for dessert.
The cheap dessert.
Right.
Yeah. But if I am gonna get something from a Mexican restaurant, it's gonna be fried ice cream. But yeah, it was good.
Alas.
We cheated on our diet.
And you know who cheated on life? We both went for the segue.
You know who probably cheated a lot?
You know who probably cheated? I don't want to give anything away, but you guys know. You know the stories about Rasputin cheating on life, but that's for the end. So let's start at the beginning. Now, before I get into this, disclaimer. Not a disclaimer, but like this is not just about like Romanov family and like Anastasia. Mm-hmm. This is about Rasputin. So if you want to talk about Anastasia, maybe we'll come back and do that.
We can do another episode. Let us know.
Yeah, I will mention her at the end, and I might like make a few comments about the whole Anastasia thing, but this is about Rasputin.
Beautiful.
Because
he's a creep.
Because he's creepy, and we were watching that video, and it was a science video. It was not a science video. It was supernatural, right? It was like a supernatural.
Hannah, do you know how many videos we've watched since
we go down a rabbit trail.
We go through.
Right.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was about.
But he was mentioned briefly in it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
ooh.
Rasputin.
Yeah.
So we're doing about him because he's creepy, weird, woo, woo, woo. But come to find out, I mean, he is creepy. Don't get me wrong. And he was messed up and like, but a lot of it, because of what was going on in Russia at the time, I think they used him a lot as like a scapegoat. So he's kind of been like, every bad thing kind of that happened wasn't fully on him, but like they kind of were like, it's because of Rasputin. Obviously, creepy man, did lots of bad stuff, but I think he's sort of become this like, just throw it on him. Let's blame him.
Right. Oh, we already blamed this on him. Well, might as well. He's already taking the fall for everything else.
Right. We might as well. It's understandable why they didn't like him, but Yeah. But we'll start with him and his childhood first, okay? We don't know as much.
Little baby.
A wee baby born into the world. In Siberia in 1869.
Fun.
In a little village called Pokrovskoy village.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
He was considered a peasant. Obviously, it was a very poor area in Russia at this time. I mean, they were being ruled by an absolute monarchy. You know, if you were a peasant, you were kind of screwed.
Right. There's no way out.
Yeah. Except for him. No, just kidding.
Right.
He was significant because there's usually no way out. You're just a peasant living in, these poor circumstances. A lot of times, families would have so many children just hoping that one would live to adulthood. So like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Like this is how poor and like, destitute they are. His family had like 8 or 9 children and he was the only one to survive to adulthood. Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
My jaw just dropped. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What?
They're like, procreate. Let's hope someone lives. Because like in that time, like getting a kid to reach adulthood was that difficult.
Why?
Isn't that sad? Well, I mean, probably because they're so poor and like disease and like Siberia. Isn't it like freezing there?
Yeah.
It's like really cold and it's Russia. And so it's like they're poverty stricken. But I'm assuming it's because of sickness, and I mean it's the 1869 is when he's born, so
it's the 1800s of it all.
Right in the cusp of probably advancing into the 1900s and stuff. But right. So he was the only one to live of his siblings, and during his like youth and stuff, he had like a few run-ins with the law.
That little rascal.
Yeah, not like, I think there was one video I was watching where it was like he insulted a bureaucrat or something, or an aristocrat or something, and so they like, he had like, I think he might have spent a little time in prison, but not like anything wild, it was just kind of
right, just regular. And
he was youth drinking
Russian
a little
youth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was nothing crazy, but it was also during this time that it was thought that he developed supernatural abilities, powers / thing.
He thought he developed, or it was widely believed that he developed?
It was widely believed that he developed, like, he later did believe that he developed these supernatural abilities, but I think that they must have been like, whoa, you must have supernatural abilities, because he was like able to distinguish like thieves, like supposedly.
So he had discernment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I guess they were like, whoa, you must be psychic, or I don't know, not psychic, but like, you must have this supernatural knowledge,
supernatural ability.
And now I don't know if it was like the people around that time widely believed he had supernatural abilities, or if it was people looking back, like this is when people thought he first saw him developing abilities or whatever like that.
Right.
But there was a story which they said, we don't know if it's true. Probably isn't. Like, apparently there was a thief that stole his dad's horse, and then he like figured, like, he knew who it was. He was like, it was that man. And it's like, what if he just got a lucky
What
guess?
if he just, well, what if he was just like, this man's out to get my family, so it's definitely this man.
Right.
You
like
know?
he was just like discerning.
Intuition.
Right. But like, other than that, like, as far as education goes and stuff, like, I'm pretty sure he was illiterate at this time because they were, you know, poor. Like, he wasn't, for most of his like young adulthood, he was illiterate. Obviously, I think when he later went on, he could like read and write some, but not like anything crazy. Yeah. So, which is crazy why he has gone up in society this much, because during this time that kind of like he didn't have access to anything. Like
how did he succeed at all? Right,
exactly. So how it started, I believe it was a little confusing, the timeline.
Okay.
About he went to this monastery.
Alrighty.
And I think this was his first sort of exposure to religious experience at all. Like his first religious experience. And I don't really know if he was religious before this at all. Mm-hmm. So he goes to this monastery, and I think one of the articles I read said he had a vision of the Virgin Mary here.
Oh.
So I'm not really sure I don't know what she said to him. I don't really know what that entailed.
Why the Virgin Mary?
I'm not quite sure.
Why not Jesus?
Why not Jesus? Because I don't know. Maybe in the
interesting. Was Russian Orthodox Church. Was it a Catholic church?
It's a Russian Orthodox church, but I don't know if this one was. It was a monastery. So, but like in Russia, it's usually
Catholic.
I don't know if they were Catholic in Russia. I think it's Russian Orthodox.
Right.
But I don't know if the Virgin Mary.
Like because that's
maybe
it
could have been a Catholic monastery.
That's a very Catholic thing. Yeah. I feel like is like that there's that one prayer, the Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Right.
Blah blah blah, blah blah. I don't know. I'm sorry.
I feel like maybe like in the church in general, maybe seen as a saint. So she's just
maybe
like I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Don't have a lot of detail on that, but if you know, let me know. So this sparked his interest in religion, and he goes back to his village. I think there was one where this happened to him afterward, and there was one where he like came back to his village. Like they sent him away and he came back.
Okay.
So kind of like got his feet wet in the religion, in the religious circle. He comes back, he gets married to his wife. He's about 18 or 19 at this point when he gets married.
Was he cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs yet?
I'm assuming he kind of must have been his whole like maybe he had a snap. He gets cuckoo for Cuckoo Puffs.
Ooh, that's a new brand.
In just a few years. But first he gets married to Praskovia Dubrovina. I had no idea.
Dubrovina. That's a fun one.
It is fun. Marries her. She seems to really like him. Okay. So keep that in your head, like his whole life. She
had a big old
she devoted
crush
to him.
On him.
Yeah. They had 7 children, only 3 lived. So at least more
Holy
than
cow.
Yeah, at least more than his family.
Well, but when did they have these children?
Well,
was he still in poverty at this time?
He was still, they were still living in that village. Like he went back to that village and they were still living there.
Okay.
But they just had better
luck.
Better chances.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little later. It's like 18 years later, maybe.
Maybe they had developed something.
Well, it could be that because when he goes in just a little bit, I'll talk about, he sent back like money for them. So maybe they had a little bit more money because he started traveling.
Maybe.
So maybe they were able to get like more food,
more supplies, a winter coat, perhaps.
Right? Perhaps some blankets. But in 1892, he had a religious change, which is I think he went to the monastery, and he was influenced. They think now they're like, we think he was influenced by this cult there because what he adopted was similar to their beliefs, but there was like no like hard evidence like yes he became a part of this cult, but it sounds like he might have. They're called the Klisti cult. Klisti.
The what? Can
Khylisti? KHLYSTI.
KHLYSTI.
Yeah.
Khlysti.
Yes. He doesn't necessarily become a part of this cult, but he leaves and he adopts their mindset, which is essentially they believed you had to commit sins in order to draw close to God. So you had to, yes, because you could not fully feel or be truly forgiven unless you had lived a life of full sin. Yes. So he adopted this thing called holy passionlessness. And essentially it was thought that there's no way around this. If you sexually exhaust yourself, you were then like at a point where you could draw close to God. I don't know if that means the desire's gone or what.
Right. Because you're like, you don't want it anymore. Or
right.
What the world?
Yeah. And also, you drink a lot. So, you go, you drink, you commit all these sins.
Party hardy.
Right. Because then you'll truly know what it's like to be forgiven by God.
That is,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a cult. It's, I don't understand, in the name of religion, doing whatever you want. I don't know what was going on. What? This is this kind of thing. He adopts it and he decides to go on this pilgrimage. So he starts to travel. I think this is 1897. Okay. So this is when he leaves his family.
Okay.
But the thing about him.
7 children.
His 7. Well.
Could you imagine being
3?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine being his wife?
No.
Leaving you with first of all, just
his wife in general.
But then secondly, ooh, my throat gurgled. Said, I'm so sorry. Secondly, though, your husband leaves you.
Yeah.
With 7 children.
Right.
To take care of.
And the difference, but this is the difference with Rasputin. He's crazy. Mm-hmm. So, but he leaves to go on this pilgrimage, and unlike other spiritual people at the time who abandoned all their relationships, he stayed married to his wife and he sent back funds to them. He was taking care of them. And so this is why he's considered, he wasn't actually he was not ordained as a monk or anything like that. He was just, he claimed to be this holy man that traveled and went on this pilgrimage he went to Greece, he went to Jerusalem, but he kept his family. And I think he went back and saw them. So he didn't give up his family. It wasn't like he went and lived a celibate life. Obviously, we know that.
Right.
So that was really weird to me. They were usually if you're going on the spiritual journey and stuff, the monks at that time would abandon their marriage or whatever, or not get married or, So, but he did not. He claimed to be a holy man, but he was not part of the Russian Orthodox Church. They did not accept him or ordain him in any way. Mm-hmm. So he also claimed to be a spokesperson for the peasants. So he was sort of this man of the people, sort of representing them.
Yeah.
And he also claimed to be mystic with healing powers. So he started gaining a small following because he was if you touch me, I think it's if you touch me, then you'll be healed.
Like Jesus.
He actually called himself a miniature Christ.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's sacrilegious.
Yes, very much so. So it was, he dubbed himself that. So I was wow. But other people dubbed him the Mad Monk. So he's known as...
So there you go.
He's known as the Mad Monk.
So there you have it.
According to him, he was Christ in miniature, which I don't think Christ was go live whatever way you want. And
go actively seek out sin. Yeah. I don't think he said that.
No. Anyway, he was a full-on drunk and he was hardly sober as well. So...
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah, if you're drunk and going around, then... But when his wife... Because his wife remained married to him... when they told her about all these people that he was going around and seeing, I should have put a disclaimer on this. This one's pretty adult.
Listen, all of our episodes have an explicit rating for this very reason.
Right. We're not trying to be gross. It's just that we're talking about things that are, historical and not appropriate for kids.
Yeah.
But sorry, I was not laughing about that. I'm laughing because of this quote. He had tons of affairs with several women, and when people were to his wife, hey, he's having all these affairs with women, she said, he has enough for all. Right. What? What?
Okay.
So
that's one way to look at it.
I don't understand.
Are we sure she liked him?
I'm not sure. Maybe she just, but I'm as she had to, Well, I mean, if he was sending her, I guess at this time, maybe if he was getting more money, if he was sending her enough money, I don't really know, because it didn't sound like he was rich still. That's what I was confused about, because, like, okay, maybe if he was, like, really rich and sending back money, she was just like, yeah, cool, whatever, go do whatever you want. But I don't know if that was the case, but he was apparently supporting them. So
that's bizarre.
Yes.
She sounds like she may have been a little...
Well,
in order to be
in order to be married to him for that long, and
she had to be a little,
yeah,
there's a couple screws loose with that one.
Yes. But many people thought that Rasputin was, even though he was claimed to be this religious holy man, a lot of them kind of were like, nope, he is involved with the devil. And that's kind of how he's become known today, is like he's in league with the devil. You know, that's kind of his reputation. But let's get to how he comes into play in the nobility circle. Noble nobility circle.
The noble nobility circle.
Yes. He went to St. Petersburg in 1903, which is where the monarchy, where they live. So that's their residence in St. Petersburg.
In Russia.
In Russia.
Okay.
Yes. He was only there for a little while, and then he went back to his village, and then came back in 1905, where he increased in popularity and followers. I don't really know. I don't know if he just went to go see his family. Was it because he had seen?
Was it because he had been with the monarchy?
No, because he hadn't met them at this time. But he went to St. Petersburg, and then he kind of like, I think he did some stuff with the church there, and then he went back home, and then he decided to come back. And I'm not quite sure why, like what happened there.
It was a kid's birthday.
Yeah,
a kid died.
Go. Probably.
Kid's birthday.
Yeah, they're like, hey, you might want to come back.
This one's in ill health.
Yeah, like this one died.
Shocking, I know.
Right. When he came back in 1905, though, the Russian Orthodox clergy kind of became interested in him, and like, which is surprising because most of the time they were like,
no.
I guess at this point, this church had, like, the Russian Orthodox Church at this point had not like fully discovered who he was yet, but
he wasn't completely
recognized as.
Yeah, there's a word I want to say, but I'm gonna refrain.
We're gonna refrain from that one. But this is the point where they take him and they begin to introduce him to the elites in society, and because they're like, oh, he's an interesting man, like he's this holy man that can heal people, blah blah blah. So they introduce him, or like the clergy introduces him to the elite, who then like introduce him to the royal family, the Tsar. His people, their people. Right, one or the other.
He got in front of the Tsar.
Yes, the Tsar, Nicholas II, and his wife Alexandra. So that's who's in charge right now. There's a lot of backstory to the like whole Romanov line, but essentially Nicholas, who's in charge now, when his father died, Russia was in a state of political
disarray.
Yes, essentially, like his father, so his grandfather, Nicholas's grandfather, who is his father's dad, obviously that's how it works. He was trying to like kind of progress and like started to like incorporate some like liberal views, but then Nicholas's father got in and was like, nope, absolutely not, and went back to an iron
everybody
fist.
Had been like,
starting
for
to taste,
lack of a better term, enlightened.
Right, started to taste a little bit of freedom.
Yeah, and then he shut that down.
And he said, no, absolutely not. Like, we're gonna close this down. We're gonna do this. Like, this reform that his dad was putting in place.
Yeah.
Right. And then Nicholas's father, Alexander III, if I'm getting that right, he dies early, a lot earlier than expected, like at 49.
So like someone killed him.
Yeah. Well, actually, no, like he died of like liver failure or something, or
Oh.
Like, and they and it was thought like later on, it was like, well, maybe it was foul play, but then they like brought up his body like back in like 2018 or something.
How can you even tell from that far
exactly.
away?
and they confirmed that it was like liver failure. Like he just unexpectedly died, which is crazy.
How can you tell? It's just bones.
I don't understand science.
I don't get that.
I don't either. But because he was not preparing Nicholas the way he should have been, because he wasn't expecting to die that early.
Right.
So Nicholas was like
he
19.
had more time.
Yeah. So he was.
That's
like,
young.
Yeah. He was not officially like coordinated until like 2 years later, but still, like he was a wee bebe, as we like to say.
A wee bebe.
But
he still had a lot of training to go through.
And he did not get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
he was not prepared at all, and he didn't want it. He was like, he didn't want, but he was the heir. So what do you do?
Right. There was no other heir that could have taken.
No, I think that he had a brother, but his dad was like, "You're the heir," and I don't know if you really have a decision. I don't know.
Yeah.
His brother might have been younger. I can't remember, or he had like a stepbrother or something.
Well, so and he died so young too. Yeah. So it's like even if he was the oldest, and the heir was like 5 years younger than him, that's like,
too bad.
You're stuck.
Right. But so his dad hands him off this crap show of a Russia. So he is coronated 2 years later, and like he starts out his reign really bad because at his coronation, afterwards they go on this like tour of the like
of the land.
City.
Or
go out and like do their little parade or whatever it is. And a lot of times they give like gifts to the like peasantry and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there was apparently like
there she is
the
again.
Cat's back. Apparently there was like this like upheaval of the people, and they began running each other over, and like 1,400 people died because they were wanting to get their gifts.
Oh.
Yeah. So right off the bat, that happens.
That's no bueno.
So this man doesn't start out well.
No.
I kind of feel a little bad for him.
I do too.
Because like I think he
didn't want it. His dad died unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. The nation's in disarray because of his father.
He was not politically prepared.
He wasn't prepared, so he doesn't know how to fix it.
Right.
Like,
what do you do? And then 1,400 people die at her coronation 2 years later. Because like he became the like Tsar, but he didn't get coronated.
He didn't get
because they were like, you're still so young. So he probably had to be like prepped like super fast.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Ignore her.
Yeah, she just wants. Wait, what? She just wants to be heard.
Right. She's like, wait, I have an opinion about this actually. So Rasputin meets the Tsar.
Okay.
And his wife Alexandra.
Okay. Nicholas.
Nicholas. No. Yes, Nicholas II. That's our guy. That's our poor little guy left to
our poor little Tsar.
Our poor little Tsar. But they had other like religious or spiritual advisors in the past.
Okay.
So when they met Rasputin, they were like, "Oh, like he's really interesting."
Yeah. He's got new ideas. Yeah. That'll be fun.
And like when he talked to them, like the wife was like, "Oh my gosh, I feel so relieved about, my anxiety," because they had 5 children. Oh my gosh, what's happening? She really
is. Kiki, hang on.
We're gonna pause. Also, side note, guys, we just found out that was the dog, not the cat.
Yeah.
That was scratching.
Marshall was letting Darcy sit up there because she was just sitting, quote, sitting at the door, listening to you guys. I said, no, she wasn't. She kept scratching. And he said, oh, she must have done that when I was walking away.
She must have heard something interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. But anyway, we're talking about the family had met with other spiritual advisors before this, and so when Rasputin came along, they were like, "Ooh, he's so interesting. Like he like calms us, blah blah blah." And they
Rasputin calms us.
If you guys have seen this man's eyes, like if you've seen
creepy.
Yeah, a picture of him, like that's what I don't understand is like he must have had some sort of. Well, I mean, they said he was obviously charismatic and like stuff like that, but it's like he must have had some sort of power over certain people because like it's crazy to me that he like. His face is
dead eyes
and like really like dark circles that like look sunken in. Like to me, I would see that man. I'd be like,
I don't know how much. You kind of put me on edge,
right? But old photos and also but like still like you look at these pictures and like it's creepy. Like it's no. But so they had 5 children: Olga, Tatiana, Anastasia, Maria, and Alexei.
The Tsar?
The Tsar.
Okay.
And so Alexei was their only son. Okay. So this is a big deal because he's the only heir. Mm-hmm. They had 4 girls and they were like, oh my gosh, like we need an heir. So they finally have Alexei. Now, when Rasputin comes along, Alexei, since birth, he's had this thing that they call like the royal disease, but it's called hemophilia. And it's a condition where the blood does not clot properly.
Right.
Perhaps you've heard of it. I'm sure you have with all this.
Yeah.
You watch all those royal family shows, right? But this means that if he gets like one small
cut, he could bleed out.
Exactly. Like he's gone. If he gets cut, bruise, whatever, like it's not good. And he's like in pain all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rasputin comes along and, so they're like seeking spiritual advisors and comfort because they have this kid who needs to be healed.
The only heir, because they're...
Right. Yeah.
They don't think women can be the czar.
Right. And apparently lots of people did not like Alexandra. She was German and she...
Oh.
Yeah, apparently she had carried this genetic gene that like gave this disease.
Okay. But they didn't know that.
Alexander III, Nicholas's father, knew that because that was one of his objections to the marriage. So they knew she carried this gene. Which is crazy because they had 4 girls. Did any of
their other kids have it? No, just the boy.
Just the boy. Which is crazy. Yeah, which is crazy.
Sounds like someone else needs to take over.
Yeah, like, you sure? It's weird to me that the only boy, isn't that crazy? He got it. The only heir, in quotation marks, got it. But, so he was in a lot of pain. He couldn't really, I think they kind of kept it under wraps. Like, it was pretty, like, they didn't just tell the public.
Well, they don't want the public to know that their only heir is... If he gets a cut, he can die.
Right. Like, you guys might not have a SAR. Like,
Because then it's like, oh, just take a piece of paper, go next to him, and he'll die.
No, literally, yeah.
Obviously not that aggressive, but, like,
It was pretty crazy because they would keep him, like, I think they said, like, even sometimes he would be like, carried to other rooms and stuff. Like, they were very, like... Careful with him. But apparently when Rasputin really kind of got his clutches on the royal family, I don't even know if he was trying. Like, he liked being popular and he liked being like recognized as he is hangs out with the Tsar and stuff. And like, they would give him like embroidered shirts and stuff and he would like show the public like when he was wearing them. Like,
he wanted to use them as clout, gain more followers.
But Alexei went on this carriage ride and apparently it was like a pretty rough carriage ride.
Oh.
And so after this, his hemophilia like really like freaked out. So he is doing really, really badly. And Rasputin suggests, let's limit the doctors. Like, don't let the doctors like get really near him or anything like that. And apparently by his advice, Alexandra does this and like Alexei seems to do like a whole lot better. Like, he heals up. Not like obviously the disease doesn't go away, but...
Well, because the doctors were probably trying... Obviously, the medicine wasn't that great then, but the doctors were probably trying, like, things that were ultimately harming them. Because, like, they used to think that you should put dirt in a wound to heal it. No. So, like, maybe they could be...
You nailed it on the head.
Oh,
because...
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, because apparently this is obviously seen, like, as a miracle, and they're like, well, he, like, healed him. But at the time, the doctors used aspirin as an all cure.
No.
For everything. Yes. And you know what aspirin does?
Yeah.
Thins your blood.
You can't do that. Whoa.
Yes. They didn't know that at the time. They just thought it like cured everything. So they were just like aspirin. So it's thought like that him telling them to like keep the doctors away
was because he knew that was thinning the blood.
Yeah. Like it was because of the aspirin. And so.
But I don't know if Rasputin, just a miracle.
Yeah. It was a miracle.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So I don't know if Rasputin knew that they were giving him stuff. I don't know if he knew anything about aspirin.
Yeah.
But essentially it was seemed like he had performed kind of like this miracle because of the aspirin. Like, it would have been like, oh, he's not getting aspirin anymore, so he'd be doing better. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which, if they had been giving him aspirin his whole life, that would have probably been making it worse. Like, I mean, obviously it would be making it worse, but like...
Well, yeah. But but we don't know if he had aspirin his whole life, you know?
Yeah. But like, if he had seen like a marked improvement after this instance... Like, did they keep keeping the doctors away, and was Alexei getting better? I'm not totally sure on that.
That's something to look into.
Yeah, that is. I was like, I never have time to like do all because I'm like sitting here like I've studied so much, and I wonder about this, and I wonder about this.
Again, a rabbit hole.
But anyway, essentially, it was seen as a miracle. Olga, one of the kids, had even mentioned like at other times, I don't think it was this instant, but she had seen Rasputin like praying at the foot of Alexei's bed. And then there was like a lady in waiting in the house that was like, oh, Rasputin knew about some sort of like not herbal, like something the peasants had given like the horses in their village to like keep internal bleeding from happening. So it was like,
what?
Yeah, she was like theorizing like, oh, he had something that he like gave to him.
Oh, she was like, theorizing. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think she fully knew.
Okay.
But that was like they're like proposed like that was like he might have done this or he might have done that. Like he was praying for him, so he healed him, or he was giving some sort of, medicine known to the peasantry, but not,
yeah, because there's totally a medicine known to the peasantry, but not the royal family.
I mean, they probably were trying to eat all sorts of things, but, but also Rasputin also knew hypnosis, and it was thought that like maybe even like his calming effect on the kid was like he was doing hypnosis to him and stuff like that. So because it was saying like he calmed the kid as well. So it's like, what?
Well, if he knew Rasputin, and he trusted Rasputin, he was like, it's okay, you're going to be okay. Then it's like, they can calm a kid down. You know?
Exactly.
Like someone they trust telling them.
Yeah, and if it was after the instance where he, like, was feeling better because he didn't get the medicine, then he was like, Rasputin, like, help me. You know? So, now, it was odd that because they, like, pretty much accepted him, like, especially the mom, like, accepted him into their, like, household. Now he didn't live with them, but like he would like come and go as he pleased all
the time.
Yeah. So some people even thought like he lived there because he was there so much. It was odd that he became so popular with the elite though, because he was like had really bad manners. He was not clean. He like if you've seen pictures of him, like he's very like
dirty.
Yeah, he had like food in his beard.
Ew.
And like apparently he would like lick spoons before he like served food. Like,
ew.
Disgusting. Like that's why it's like so
Hannah
weird.
could never.
Oh no, this man would be he'd be out.
Well, he was probably like seen as kooky, like he's a breath of fresh air because he's not got these manners. So what's he gonna do? You know,
like ooh, he's so different.
That's probably why.
Yeah, probably. However, his presence with the family caused more political unrest because the people did not like him, and they took like him as sort of like he's influencing the royal family and all this stuff. So at one time, like by the prime minister's warnings, Nicholas tried to send him away, but Alexandra was like, no, I want him back. Like I want him here.
He saved my baby.
He saved my kid. So he was like, well, so he did. Nicholas kind of tried because I think Nicholas was kind of like just swayed whatever way because
he was like he didn't want to be the czar,
right?
Maybe.
The thing about this though, which is weird, which I wish I could do more research about. I believe, if I get this wrong, I'm sorry. I think the prime minister's name was Stolypin, something like that. Stolypin. But after Stolypin, it's Stolypin.
Sure.
So however you say that. But he was the one who warned Nicholas, like, I don't trust him. He's like suspicious. And then like a few days later, like he had this confrontation with Rasputin in person, the prime minister, because they took him back. And then like a few days later, the prime minister was assassinated. So like that's
fishy.
That's fishy.
That's
that
weird.
I'd like to look into a little bit more, because I don't know the full story behind that. I don't know if they think that Rasputin had anything to do with it. They never said he was accused of murder or anything like that.
How old was the prime minister?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. It was like briefly I read this in my notes and I was like, huh? It was like in one article. So
yeah,
might have to look into that a little bit more. But I just thought that was an interesting side note. So now Rasputin was against, also like people did not like him. Rasputin was against like Russian entry into World War I because they're going into World War I at this time. And he was like, no, Russia should not enter World War. And he was like, but I want to go pray for the troops, like on the front lines. And like the commander-in-chief of the army was like, absolutely, I do not want him here. Like, no, absolutely, I do not want him here. So he would not let him come to the front lines and like bless the troops. So like people did not like him. They were like, I think at the time he was.
They had seen.
Yeah. He's a mad monk. Like that was his nickname. Like he's crazy.
No, thank you. I don't want that bad juju.
Yeah. So also because of this, Nicholas eventually goes to help with the war and leaves Alexandra in charge. Okay. People already don't like her.
Okay.
So it was claimed that Rasputin had some political influence on her, but there's some people who say no, he really didn't have that much of an influence. But then there are some who say like he was advising her in like, in political matters, and so it was started also that he was having an affair with her.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Of course, it's always the affair.
Yeah.
It was like so well known that like the soldiers would be like, oh yep, they're having an affair like at the front lines and stuff like that. And there were even like I think there was like a drawing with like Rasputin like controlling the like the SARS and stuff like that. Like it was like a like became very political.
Yeah.
Political.
But
there was no proof for that affair, I don't believe.
Okay.
But like the SARS away.
It is a possibility though.
Yeah, and he was already.
The fact that she was like, no, you're not allowed to kick him out even was like.
Yeah. which if you think he saved your kid, but like,
and he was promiscuous, we know.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, he was already doing whatever. So
right.
Who's
Wouldn't
to say?
put it past him.
You're making the Tsar look even worse because they're like, you can't even control your wife, sort of thing. Like, I'm sure, you know what I mean? Like, that's what they thought back then.
Yeah.
So they hate him, right? So unrest is gaining between also Russia itself with the monarchy and World War I's going on.
Right.
So Rasputin foretells that Russia will not last long in World War I, which came to be true. Like, they had a premature defeat in World War I. They didn't make it far. So he predicted that, and right after World War I, Russia goes into like its own civil war.
Oh.
So because there's like the what's called the Bolsheviks, they're like the revolutionaries. So this is like the Russian Revolution, and it's like happens in 1917, but it's leading up to this. So Rasputin is obviously hated. In 1914, there was one attempt on his life by a there was a priest named Iliad, something.
Sure, yeah.
We don't know. Sergei something. He considered Rasputin an enemy, and one of his followers, her name was Shionya Guseva. She was just like a peasant. But she approached Rasputin in the streets and stabs him in the stomach. And it was thought like that maybe the priest like encouraged her to do so.
Yeah.
So she attempted to like assassinate this man just like in the streets, but she went free because it thought that she was just insane. So they just let her go because she was insane.
Okay.
Rasputin survives it.
Rasputin's not insane? I'm sorry.
Right. Like, what the heck?
Whoa.
But it almost killed him. Like, it was a bad wound, but he heals. So he's already had one attempt on his life in 1914. So in 1916, there's this man named Prince Felix Yusupov. And fun name. They're all fun names. He was married to Nicholas's niece. Irina, I think was her name. He's like the wealthiest man at this time in Russia, I think. Very rich, very overprivileged.
Right.
He was considered lazy and like, you know, he didn't do anything because he just married into his family. He's rich, you know, he hasn't like, you know, made his way in the world.
Gotcha.
So deciding that he is going to be a patriot, and I think they even said it like in the sources, become a man of action or whatever that means.
Yeah.
He decides he's going to invite Rasputin to his house for a party to meet his wife Irina, who would have also been, I guess, the niece of Nicholas. So of course, more nobility. He's going to come and meet them.
Getting deeper into the family tree.
Right. And Yusupov convinces other aristocrats. I can never say that word.
Aristocrats.
Aristocrats. Because I think of Aristocats, like the cartoon movie. Aristocrats to like get in on the plot with him, that he's inviting him to this supposed party, when in reality, he's planning to assassinate him. Because, you know, because he hates him and he thinks that Rasputin is essentially making the monarchy look bad when it's already like on the edge of collapse, because everyone's like, they're letting this spiritual advisor control them. Right. So he didn't cause the unrest because it was already there, but he was adding to it.
So the lazy dude is like, I'm gonna invite him over and kill him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he's like, this will put me in the spotlight. I've done something. You know, I've helped to the cause of,
right.
You know,
people won't think of me as just
the revolution.
Lazy.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So he's like, why not kill him? Because he's making us look bad anyway.
Right.
So on December 29th, 1916, Rasputin goes to the little party. And Yusupov is like, here's some wine, here's some cakes. Apparently, they are filled with cyanide.
Oh.
But Rasputin eats them, continues to eat them, seems fine. Nothing happens to him. So he's like, what the heck? Like, how is this man not dying? So then he just goes and gets a gun and decides, okay, I'm going to shoot you in the chest. I think he shoots him a couple times, like 3 times. He falls down. And so they're like, okay, I think we got him, boys. And supposedly, now this is all according to Yusupov. Like, this is in his memoir.
Sorry, I know. I was just jaw dropped for a second.
She was just like,
I was like, what?
She was just listening. She was enthralled, and then I messed up the word. In his book, which he wrote in 1928, so this is like 12 years after, I think, that he supposedly, after Rasputin's shot, they think he's dead, but then he gets back up. And then they shoot him again.
What?
Yes. So they take him. They think, I guess they think he's finally dead after they shoot him the second time. They dump him in the Neva River. So a few days later, they find his body, and he is finally dead. They cannot fully, the autopsy was a little weird. They're like, yes, he had water in his lungs, but we think he died of a bullet shot to the head.
If he had water in his lungs, he was still alive.
Okay, we'll see then. All right, well. One said he had water in his lungs, and one said that they thought he died from a bullet. So some people think he died of drowning. Some people think he died because he had a bullet wound in the head.
He was probably unconscious.
Probably when they threw him in the river.
But he was still alive.
Right.
He probably like inhaled a little bit.
Because you can live a bullet shot for like a little while. So even then, he could have been still alive.
And depending on where they shot him too.
Well, they shot him in the head. Well, like in the middle of the head. Like I saw a picture. It's kind of creepy. They like just put the picture of him dead. I was like, oh, like it's pretty gruesome. But a lot of people think that this was like exaggerated, like greatly. Like there's
no way.
It was also that like his daughter, because he had the 3 children that were alive still.
Rasputin,
yeah, Dmitri. I think her name was Maria as well. She, fun fact, later went and joined the circus as a lion tamer, but that's just beside the point.
That's fun.
But she wrote like not a rebuttal, but like a response to Yusupov's account.
Yeah.
And was like, I think this is kind of BS, because my dad didn't like sweets. He didn't like to eat like sweets, so why would he be like eating all these cakes? And you're saying he's not being poisoned, but like he wouldn't be eating that. So she's like, I don't think that you're...
So it could have been, let's poison these cakes.
And he didn't actually eat them.
And then he wasn't eating them, and so he was like, let me shoot him. And then he made up this big tale, so he made him sound more impressive. Yeah. He took down the big, scary Rasputin who wasn't dying.
He wouldn't die, but she's like, he didn't like sweets.
Like, he didn't like sweets, so he wouldn't have eaten it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the theory there, like, she doesn't think he would have eaten it. Mm-hmm. So he probably did just shoot him and, like, made up the rest. Like, I tried to poison him, bro. Like, I tried to, you know, he's already, like, you know, he just wants to be a hero, so.
Right. He needs that street cred.
Right. So, now the interesting thing, before this happened, Rasputin also predicted that he would die, and also that the Romanov family would die. He said, I think I will die before January 1st. He died on December 29th. And then he said, and your children will die, because he was like writing to the Tsar, within 2 years. After this happens, in 1916, the people are still not happy. So Nicholas abdicates in 1917. So he steps down from being a Tsar.
Yes.
But this is the time during the Russian Revolution. So the revolutionaries take the Romanov family into captivity, of course, because they're coming in. They're establishing, I don't know if this is the Communist Party, maybe?
Yeah.
Under Lenin. I think it was Lenin. So I think
I
might have that wrong.
No idea. I couldn't tell you either way.
But essentially they were called like the Red Army, and then there was the White Army that were like the anti-revolutionaries, and then the revolutionaries. So the revolutionaries, the people who want to overthrow the monarchy, came in. They took the family, and they took them from like a house to house as captors. They had all of them. They had all 5 children and the 2 parents, and I think they had some servants as well. So they come in and they take them, and they've switched locations a few times, but they stop at this one house, and apparently the anti-revolutionaries, so the people who are like, no, we actually do want the monarchy.
The White Army.
Yeah, the White Army is approaching, and they decide, okay, we've kept them long enough. We don't want them rescued. So
even though they had stepped down,
they were still like,
weird to me.
Yeah, they didn't want any of them. They didn't want them alive. They don't want them to get back in power because this family has been in power for like a really long time.
Yeah, but he stepped down. It's like he was like, I don't want it.
Right. Well, and he tried, I think, to put his like this is the part where I was like, I think he had a brother, or it might have been his like stepbrother. He tried to like give it to him, but he's like, no, I don't want it. I refuse. And so then the Romanov family like tried to like get in contact with like distant relatives in like different countries.
Okay.
But it was World War One, and like they were like trying to leave, but it was World War One, and they were like, no, we don't really want anything to do with the monarchy in Russia. Like it already looks bad, and so like even his relatives like did not let him come to them. So they get captured. So it's like, that's a great family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're just like, no. But because the monarchy was so hated, it was just like, we're not gonna like give you refuge when that's gonna look bad for us or something. I don't quite understand that, but
surely Russia had allies, because like there's like allies, you know, like the United States and I think Russia, right? The Soviets, that's Russia, right?
What country? France, Russia, the British Empire, and later Italy defeat the Central Powers. Oh, okay. So no, Russia was on the side of defeat the Central Powers, led by the German, Austro-Hungarian, Bulgarian. Okay, so Russia was on France's and the British Empire's and Italy and the United States side.
I was about to say, I thought Russia was on our side. I thought we were allies with Russia at that time. So, like, surely there was an ally that could.
Oh, okay. So World War I was Adolf Hitler.
That's what I thought.
So it was. Okay, so
that's what I thought, because I was like, no, because Pearl Harbor happened more recently than the Holocaust.
Oh, right. I know. I always just get them confused in my minds. In my minds?
You got multiple minds,
I'm
girl?
going crazy.
Whoa.
Okay. Sorry about that sidetrack there.
Yeah. Anyways.
We apparently need to do
any historian listening to this is like, oh my gosh, they're just so dumb.
Like, they're so stupid. I don't know why the world wars. I know more about like ancient history. I do like more ancient history than I do like the.
I just knew that Pearl Harbor was closer to us than the Holocaust was, and I was like, no, Hitler I think was first.
Right. No. Yeah, you're right. So, the White Army or whatever it's called, that once the monarchy is heading toward where the revolutionaries are keeping the Romanovs in this house, and so they decide, you know what, we don't want them rescued. So they wake them up in the middle of the night. It's July 17th, 1918. So Rasputin died in 1916. This is 1918.
So 2 years later. He died in December, and he said in less than 2 years.
So it was almost in 1917 when he died. They were like, okay, wake up. We're moving you to another house, because they'd been moved to lots of houses. But instead, they took them to the basement and they lined them up and shot them all, firing squad. And then they didn't all die, so they stabbed them with their bayonets, because some of them were like a little hesitant to like kill the children,
right? Because
it's awful and horrible.
Because they're children,
right? But they do, and then they throw them down a mine shaft.
Yeah. And
then they're like, well, they can still be recognized. I think they did this after they threw them down the mine shaft. They got them back up. And then I think they either did this before the mine shaft or after, but they had, how do you say it? Benzene? To burn the bodies. And then they had sulfuric acid to disfigure them so that they wouldn't be recognized. So it was planned. Like, they had this stuff they were like building up so they could destroy the bodies. But I don't know why they threw them down the shaft and then they brought them back up and then they
threw them back
or maybe
down?
They like burned them and then threw them down and then they're like still not good enough.
And then they brought them back up.
I got a little confused because the story like switched. But then they decided to actually bury them, so they bury them, and then so it's done. And this is where all the stories come from of Anastasia, because they think like. Maybe
one of the daughters got away, yeah.
Maybe one of the soldiers like took pity on them, and they, but, which is why I'm not going to go into the Anastasia thing. But now we know that it's not possible that she could have escaped. However, before this, because it's been just recently, their remains were found in 1979, but they did not exhume them until 1991.
Okay.
So there was hesitation on the part of the Russian Orthodox Church to accept that it was their bodies, because they had apparently canonized, it's called, the Romanov family.
Okay.
And so, which means like that their bones are like relics, apparently.
Oh, okay.
So like, just being like, okay, yes, we believe that that's their body. It's like they would be like, no, like we have to make sure, like this is important. Like you can't just say this is their bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because apparently they'd be giving like burial rites. It's weird to me. Like the church, like I don't really understand. Like I guess it's like saints and things like that. Like you have to have burial rites or whatever to actually bury the family. But they did DNA testing like I think it was in 2018. So like this was ongoing. Because they didn't bring them up till 1991, but they were missing 2 bodies. And that's why it was like, could one have escaped?
But they were missing 2.
They were missing 2.
Would have escaped.
Well, they were missing Alexei and one of the girls. One of the girls. They weren't sure. So
and Alexei it was apparently Maria. Is the boy.
Yes. Okay. Alexei. So they were missing Maria and Alexei as far as they could tell. Because in order for them to tell like that this was actually the Tsar, they dug up his dad, I think. And like took his DNA. And then they were like, yes, this is him.
Yeah, I mean, so, that make sense.
And then they were able, because they had the mom, like they knew it was her as well, they were able to identify there were 3 children in this burial site that were theirs. But the other 4 were not. So they think they were servants or something like that got buried with them.
I think that I have heard that they had servants with them.
Yes, they had servants. And like, I think they had pets too. And it was like, stop. But one of the dogs escaped. That was a good story. It was like one dog escaped during all this, which is crazy. I'm like, yes, you go. But they couldn't find Alexei and Maria. So they found them in 2007. In another, like they were just buried a little further away from the rest of the family. I don't know why. I don't know. I wonder that too. Like, did they do it just to like mess with them or like to like not have them all in one place? Like, I don't understand.
Didn't they say, wasn't it like some people had trouble killing the children?
Yeah, so maybe
they like dug the graves and then they hesitated and so
then they killed them. That'd be really sad.
And so they dug where they thought maybe they were.
It's weird to me that they kept. I kind of understand why they would bury the boy away, maybe just because like he was the heir, but like they had another of the girls over there, so I'm not really sure why they buried them.
Well,
separately.
I don't get that. Or unless they were like, because wasn't she the oldest?
I
Maria?
don't think so. Oh, maybe. I don't remember which one was the oldest. I didn't have it in order.
I was about to say maybe they were like.
I thought Olga was, but maybe.
These 2 escaped and she escaped with him to look after him to make sure because he's so frail.
That's true.
I don't know.
But and that was in 2007. That they finally proved, and they did like the DNA testing. I was like, okay, yeah, they're the kids, like they're related to the parents, and like the whole Anastasia thing is because a woman claimed,
to
be her, and this was like back in the was it the 90s? No, it was earlier. It was like the 70s or something.
Yeah,
before they had found their bodies and stuff.
The movie Anastasia didn't come out.
Well, hold on, no, not 70s. Like it would have been 1920s or 1919 or something because they were killed in 1918. So it was like a few years after she appeared and like I don't know why I thought she lived for a long time. She's like 70 years claiming to be Anastasia.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like a long time. I don't know if I have that fact for sure. But her name she claimed to be Anna Anderson, but she was actually had a different name. She was Polish. But also claiming to be Anastasia. It was confusing. I was like, okay, which one? Why? I think they renamed her Anna Anderson because like she was not, like when she arrived in the United States or wherever she went. Was it England?
Was it like she escaped to Poland?
Yeah, with that name, Anna Anderson.
Yeah, and then came back and.
Okay. I'm actually Anastasia. So I got some of that confused. You'll have to look up the real history behind that because this wasn't what this one was about. But essentially, like now, we have proof that we found all 5 bodies. It's like
maybe they just didn't dig the hole big enough.
Maybe.
And they were like, crap, these 2.
Let's fit these 2 in another one.
Let's just dig another one.
Yeah. So the whole Anastasia thing's another offshoot of this. So I'm not going to get into except that much. But yeah. So, I mean, Rasputin wasn't the cause of their murder.
No, but he guessed it.
He did guess it, and he was kind of...
It's a little sus.
Right. He wasn't the reason why they had a downfall. Like, it was already happening, but, like, he contributed to it.
Well, but if you think about it, like, you see the turmoil going on, it's like someone's going to kill you, Like,
yeah.
Within 2 years, you're going to die.
Right.
Because this ain't going well,
I feel like he just had discernment of, like, political, like... I mean, he was
or
watching.
Maybe he knew of the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe he had heard rumors of a plan to kill the family. Like, to kidnap them and take them around and kill them.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of the elite crowd. So,
right.
like, there were probably other people who were like, yeah, we're going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was interesting. Anyway, so that's Rasputin, the mad monk, the crazy man.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
I didn't know all this stuff about him.
What happened to his family? Did they, like, after he died?
Oh, I don't know. I know that his daughter went...
His daughter did...
to the circus.
Yeah.
I think his wife stayed in the village. I don't know when she died, but... yeah, I didn't look into that afterward, but I think that his son, do you have 2 sons? I think he had another daughter. I think his son and daughter
he
were,
said he had 2 daughters.
Yeah. Her name was like, I couldn't remember because it's Vera Tot.
It's weird. It's a weird one.
Dimitri is the boy.
Yeah.
So I remembered those because have you seen Anastasia the cartoon?
Yes.
First of all, creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as creepy as I remember it, but when I was a kid. I don't think
it's as creepy as you remember it.
When I was a kid, I was like freaked out by Rasputin because they had Rasputin in it, which doesn't make any sense because if Anastasia was like grown up at this time and she had already been like away from the family.
Hollywood.
Right. Have you watched Pocahontas?
For real.
But still, I was like, wait, that doesn't make sense because they made him like the villain of that, which I mean, makes sense. But the rest of it, I was like,
yeah, he was. Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you remember that scene where his like head like comes off or something or like
what?
Yeah, it's like in the cartoon. It freaked me out. It like made a lasting impression in my brain. So like maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Maybe I need to rewatch it.
He has that little bat with him. Do you remember the bat? I need to rewatch it too. I thought it was really creepy when I was a kid, but I loved the music. And like it's Dimitri, because Dimitri is like the guy who like falls in love with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good music. That's why I was like, I think it's
which is funny because
actually
Dimitri is.
Yeah, I know
the name of
his son. That's why I was like, is he his son in the movie? I don't remember. Probably not.
It's probably just a very popular name.
Dimitri. Yeah. So I was like, man, I remember being so creeped out by that movie, and that's like how I knew who Rasputin was in the first place.
Which is funny because it's not accurate.
No, it's not accurate at all. I don't even remember anything else about the movie hardly, except "Once Upon a December," the song.
Yeah, I remember them dancing, and I remember her going to the palace, and I remember her
going from the orphanage. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the orphanage, getting like kicked out of the orphanage.
Because that's like how it starts or something, right? It's like, get out of here.
She's she gets kicked out. Yeah, now I need to watch that.
I know. We should watch it together. I'll have to like, Felina,
you'll be fine. It's really not scary.
I don't know.
But I don't remember being scared. Anyways,
I was.
If you were scared of
Anastasia,
let us know. Maybe we can make this the quiz question.
Were you scared by the movie Anastasia when you were a kid?
When you were a child.
Hannah was.
Hannah sure was.
I was.
But if you were scared about the movie, let us know. If you have any fun facts or theories about anything that we discussed.
Anastasia, Rasputin, whatever.
Let us know. You can reach us at lattespodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Lattes on My Mind. And don't go crazy. And
don't be like Rasputin.
And
don't make excuses for your behavior.
Don't do that. Don't actively seek out bad things.
Yeah. That's what we got for you. Be safe. Be good. Okay?
Be good people.